Hello, Rob here, and welcome to R&B Reviews, and welcome to the 5th installment of Ask Rob, where you, the viewers and subscribers, submit questions and I answer them. First off, I just wanted to let you know I've decided to go ahead and put this segment on hold, so this will be the last one for a while. So every single one of you that submitted questions or comments for this segment, I greatly appreciate it. I hope I answered your questions as honestly as I could. I hope I gave you the answers that you wanted, so thank you very much. I also want to give a special shout out to Jared Griffith. I saw on his YouTube channel, he did a shout out video for the last segment where he was trying to get his viewers and subscribers to check out the video and submit questions. So Jared, I want to take the time to thank you for talking to your viewers and subscribers to come check out the segment and to submit questions. So thank you very much, Jared. Thank you, thank you. And speaking of questions, we only have one set of questions for this segment, and they're from Jared Griffith. He has 3 questions for me today. His first question is, what are your thoughts on Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Now, I didn't hate the movie. I know there's some people that really hate it, but I didn't really have well, here, let me put it this way. Both movies, I think, have their pros and cons. If you're interested, a few years ago, me and a guest reviewer, David, we had a segment a few years ago called What to Watch with Your Popcorn, and somebody had submitted a request where we watch both movies and review both movies. So if you're interested in checking that video out, there's more details about what we thought about the 2 movies. But to answer your question, to put simply, I think both of these movies have their pros and cons. I think I like the older 1971 version better, and I think they did much better with the candy factory scene, even though they had a cheaper budget. It had real items like a real chocolate. Well, the river wasn't really made out of chocolate, it was actually dirty water, but it looked realistic and believable. The Tim Burton version, I think his version did a much better job on the real world scenes better. Like, for example, the scenes outside the candy factory, like, for example, the scenes with at Charlie's home and when the other kids are discovering their golden ticket. I think Tim Burton's version was much better with that than his candy factory scenes. I really didn't like Johnny Depp as Wonka. I felt like he was trying too hard to be weird. Gene Wilder, granted, he can be kind of weird too, especially during the famous tunnel scene in the original film, but he had a likability factor, which I don't think Johnny Depp really had. Wilder seemed to kind of care about the kids until each one screwed up. Depp really didn't seem to care about the kids at all, and sometimes I wondered why he even bothered to do this contest and to even have them there if he didn't want them there. I also didn't really like the subplot with Wonka's dad, which is of course played by Christopher Lee. I felt like it's not in the book. A lot of people said that this version's closer to the book, and they may have their point, but this subplot was not in the book, and I felt like it didn't really add anything. I mean, I don't think you really with magical characters like Willy Wonka or Mary Poppins, you don't necessarily have to have their backstory like a drama, like a very serious drama. I felt like, we didn't need that backstory, and I felt like it didn't really add anything in my opinion. But one thing I do like about the Tim Burton version is the grandparents criticize the kids who won while it's being announced on TV, something that I think was kind of left out with the first version. Now the Oompa Loompas, I really didn't like the Oompa Loompas in the Tim Burton version. While they used the actual lyrics from the book, I really didn't like the music. I felt like the music sounded a bit mechanical, where they're trying with different styles of music. Now, I liked how in the old version that we had different actors playing Oompa Loompas. Now, I felt like it made it more memorable. Now, I think what Tim Burton was trying to do was, I think all the Oompa Loompas in the original book look identical, and I understand that he was trying to do that by having one actor play all the Oompa Loompas so they looked exactly the same. But again, it felt artificial, and I felt like it didn't really work. Jared's second question is, what's a movie you used to hate but now like, and a movie you used to like but now hate? There really isn't any movie that I used to like that I now hate. I mean, as I've gotten older, there's some movies I kind of, embraced as a kid that, I look back on fondly, I should say, but there really isn't any of them that I really hated. Now, the first half of your question kind of reminded me of a movie that really, I really was shocked when I saw. The movie was Chinatown. It stars Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway, and I first saw this movie when I was in college. I took a film genres class where we analyzed the ingredients of making, like comedies, dramas, and all the subgenres, action, film noir. So that's kind of like that class actually, I think, helped me be a reviewer for the channel. But anyway, we were studying film noir, and the professor just said, what he would do is he would just pop the movies in. He didn't tell us what we were watching or anything, so I didn't know what to expect. I liked the movie until the ending came. I won't give it too much away, but I really didn't like the ending at first. But then after I thought about it, the movie itself, it kind of deals with not getting everything that you want, and sometimes things don't work out. So over time, I kind of warmed up to it. And plus, I saw the sequel, The Two Jakes, that Jack Nicholson did in 1990. He also directed that one. It kind of helped me get over the ending a little bit more. Chinatown, like I said, I think it came out in 1974. But that was a movie where it took me a while to get into, but I think I respect it a little bit more than I did the first time around. I think if I had a little bit more what to expect when I was watching it the first time in my film genres class, I might have liked it a little bit more. And Jared's third and final question. I saw your videos on Wheeler and Woolsey and Clark and McCullough, who are both forgotten comedy teams. Are there any more forgotten comedy teams you've seen that you recommend? That's an interesting question. When I read this question, the first answer I thought of was the Ritz Brothers, but they're not really my favorite. And even when they were well known, they were very subjective, where some people really liked them or they really hate them. Basically, the Ritz Brothers were three brothers, basically started out in vaudeville, like the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges, and then of course they entered movies in 1934 until 1943. The Ritz Brothers, basically you had three brothers, Al, Harry, and Jimmy. They looked exactly alike, and unlike the Marx Brothers or the Three Stooges, where each member has different personalities, they're basically three goofy guys that do weird jokes. They make faces, and they do what they call precision dancing, where basically they acted exactly the same way, if you want to put it simply. They made a short subject called Hotel Anchovy, which is on YouTube, which I recommend checking out. But the problem, I think, with the Ritz Brothers is they didn't, because they basically played the same character, if you want to put it that way. It was very hard for me to get into. I think they're, like I said, I find them to be hit and miss. Early on in their film career, they were basically specialty acts in Alice Faye musicals and Sonja Henie musicals that were being made at Fox. So they did sketches and they did musical numbers, like they did parodies of songs, and then they did dancing like in precision, like exact same movement, like all at once. But eventually they asked Fox to headline them in their own films, which eventually they did. But again, because they didn't have differentiating characteristics, I think it made them harder to work in the movies. One movie that I guess I would recommend that they started was their version of The Three Musketeers from 1939. There's another movie that they did called The Gorilla, which is in the public domain, and that's probably their best known movie. But oftentimes a lot of people compare them to the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges, because in Hotel Anchovy, the source subject, they do a lot of Marx Brothers zaniness, while in The Gorilla a lot of people feel like they behave like the Three Stooges. Like Harry, who's kind of like the funny man of the three, is like he's constantly yelling and doing slapstick and stuff. And a lot of people said the other two brothers didn't really do anything but stand around, kind of like the accusation that Paul McCullough gets with Bobby Clark and Clark and McCullough. But Harry, I guess, would not perform without his brothers. He liked doing performing with his brothers. But anyway, I remember reading that The Gorilla was a movie that they didn't want to do and that they walked out on, but eventually they came back and finished it. But that kind of ended their contract at Fox, and they signed with Universal. And then after a while, they're like, you know what, movies aren't for us. So the rest of their career, they concentrated on doing nightclubs and theater work. And I have a feeling the Ritz Brothers were probably funnier on stage than they were in the movies, because they did reviews where they would do sketches. There's actually a TV special on YouTube called The All-Star Review, where you kind of get a taste of their stage act, and I feel like that's probably the best that I've seen them. But I think the reason why they've kind of fallen into obscurity is, like I said, unlike Laurel and Hardy, the Marx Brothers, the Three Stooges, and Abbott and Costello, they never really had the presence in movies that they did when they did staged career. They may have been successful on stage, but the problem is, over time, the people that saw them live on stage unfortunately pass on, and because there's no movies that really showcased, you know, what they can do, like the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges. That might have been why they kind of slipped into obscurity. But a lot of comedians like Sid Caesar and Mel Brooks and Jerry Lewis and Danny Kaye have cited the Ritz Brothers as influences. Like I said, I find them hit and miss. Like I said, go on YouTube or, you know, search around the internet, and you might be able to find their movies and, you know, get an idea of what they did. So that's probably one answer. And there's a few other comedy teams I'll quickly mention. I know in the past, Jared, you and I have kind of talked about the Three Stooges they made short subjects for Columbia. Well, at Columbia, the producer Jules White tried his hand at creating other comedy teams, and they're kind of interesting to watch. One of them is called Collins and Kennedy, which was made up of Monty Collins and Tom Kennedy. They appeared in a lot of short subjects with the Stooges and other comedians. And visually they look good because Monty Collins was the thin, scrawny-faced guy, and Tom Kennedy was a little bit more heavy-set and burly. But I kind of find their relationship to be kind of contrived. Unlike Laurel and Hardy or the Three Stooges, you believe you're watching a comedy team that, you know, hangs around and does everything together. You don't get that same feeling. And some of their films feel like they could have been done by the Three Stooges. And there's two other comedy teams. I haven't had a chance to see their movies, but they again made short subjects at Columbia: Schilling and Lane and Quillen and Vernon. And I heard that Schilling and Lane was the closest to topping the Three Stooges at Columbia, and Vernon and Quillen, I heard that their shorts are a little bit more violent than even the Three Stooges. I know their films are on YouTube, so if you type in Schilling and Lane and Vernon and Quillen, you'll find their movies. Or Columbia Comedy Shorts, that's another one you might be able to find too. All right, well, Jared, I hope I answered all your questions, and I hope I didn't ramble too much, you know. But anyway, thank you all very much for submitting questions for this segment. I had a great time, and I hope, like I said, that I answered your questions as honestly as you could. Right now, I do have a couple of movie reviews of movies that you can watch on DVD or streaming or on Netflix, or something you can watch at home that you can check out. I did a review of the Three Stooges Ted Healy movie Soup to Nuts, their first movie, and I also did a review of the movie Zodiac with a pre-Marvel Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, and Jake Gyllenhaal. If you want to check those reviews out, go right ahead. And thank you very much, and I will, you know, try my best to continue to get some videos out there for you to watch. So thank you all very much that watched this segment and participated. I appreciate all you guys, you know, watching the segment and subscribing, and I hope I continue to deliver good quality work during this difficult time. And, you know, feel free to give me any feedback. Is there anything I can do differently to make these videos better? I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching.